Erica, I'm so happy to see you in person. We've been meeting on the apps, our fifth session. We've talked about a lot of your sexual activities, being with different men, picking up men at the bars, having sex with them, feeling in control. But you've told me even it doesn't even matter whether you have orgasm. It's just so you just need that contact with men. And you were married. You were not married, but you had a son with a man that you lived with for 9 years. And you told me he took good care of you sexually, so you weren't acting out. You always were faithful to him when you were with him because he gave you sex every day. I know you have a very high libido. You're also a very intelligent, attractive young woman, educated. You majored in biochemistry. So I want to go into your sexual activities, what drives it, your sexuality, and how honor has come to be a part of your way of life. The combination of your sexual needs, your sexual acting out, your fantasies, and how honor then blends into that. And you've been able to incorporate that progressively, especially since we've been doing our therapy together.
I really appreciate being here and being able to talk to you and, have this conversation. Yeah, a lot of things. I guess I tried to find honor in my own way, but now it's a little bit different speaking with you. It's a little more structure in my life or what I'm trying to work towards. But I've kind of always been this way since I can remember, even, like a younger teen, thinking about, sexual activity or just my body. And in my younger years, it definitely took over a part of my life where I wasn't very stable. And then, after I had my son, because of his love, because of his care, I tried to find honor in my own way. And yeah, I was able to be with someone for a while. So I was, focused on my home and everything, but things have changed recently too, and I'm also still trying to develop more structure in my life for my son too.
So, universal theme for you're 30 years old now. A universal theme for many young people is their sexuality. Young women today, particularly young educated women today, could have what's called a body count up to like 100. Because you had one man servicing you every day, I know you need to have daily sex. That's your preference because you have a high libido. And you've been with 35 men, and that's no astronomical number at this time, even though you've been what we call promiscuous in many ways, going to bars, picking up men. And it's been very interesting that men think they're picking you up, they're being smooth, but it's really you picking them up. They feel they're had a sexual conquest with you, but you feel like you really had a sexual conquest with them. So that's kind of a power reversal. So also you like the part of the satisfaction of sex for you with these men is feeling in control. You're controlling the narrative, you're controlling the sex act. As a matter of fact, you told me you like to be on top so you can control what's going on. And we talked about you typically haven't had hardly any orgasms, maybe a couple of times in your life. We can get into what that's about for you as well. And some of your fantasies, a few times that you did have orgasm, you had some fantasies about being with a woman, although only one time in your life were you were with a woman, mostly to pleasure her. So, then we've also, you being on a path of honor with the honor teachings. I know you're reciting the commands of honor 3 times a day. My self-respect and self-esteem depend only on my honor. So we want to get that not only tied to your looks and your intelligence and your income. And you make a good income. You're a pretty good money maker. Probably averaging $100,000 a year above that. But then you had to cut it down because you wanted to be closer to your son. So you may be making $85,000. You're also saying you don't take money for the sex when you pick these guys up because you don't want to feel obligated. It takes away from your sense of being in control. Yeah. You're doing this. You don't want the money because I'm sure you could have gotten paid for some of the things you're doing and you didn't go there with it. So I want you to talk about you wrote an amazing poem. I mean, I love the poem you wrote about it. So perhaps you could read us the poem and then we can extrapolate from that.
Yeah, so I did write a small poem kind of to be able to speak with you about what I've been through, I guess. So this is kind of like my thoughts when I'm feeling or why sometimes I'm meeting someone. I wake up missing his scent next to me. I get up to get ready for the day, and my mind wanders to his lips on my neck. I get in my car and I listen to a song that reminds me of his hands on my body. I try to concentrate at my desk, but when there's a lull, he invades my mind. So I make myself busy and try to focus on my tasks. I fill up my schedule and I rush to do errands, but I can't scrub away the thoughts of that man inside of me. I can't sweep away the thoughts of that man desiring me. That man's eyes rolling back from the way my mouth pleases him. That man's moans as I tighten myself on top of him. That man's pleads to slow down because he can't contain myself. But that man in my thoughts becomes blurry as I think of us together. Alex is the biggest man I've had, and his desire for me over the years never ends. Joseph looks at me with love in his eyes every time he touches me. Jason's tattoos look so dangerous around my neck. Jake loves to repeat to me that my mouth is second to none. Daniel is so tall, he crushes me when he dominates me. And Victor has owned me since I was 18 and knows every part of me. I just don't know which kiss, which caress, which stroke I miss. I don't know which one I need. My day is coming to an end, so I take a shot to calm myself down. But the night is here and I'm starting to pace. I'm feeling like I miss that man. Which man? The strongest man, the biggest man, the most loving man? As I'm sitting at the bar, I see another man. A man that looks good enough to miss tomorrow. I softly smile and my kind face makes me seem shy. He rushes over and thinks he's going to have to work to gain my trust. He thinks I'm a conquest and wonders why a sweet girl like me is all alone. So I tell him my friend canceled on me and I'm headed out. He lights up and thinks his smooth talking is making me open up. But I'm not the conquest. I'm not the prey. He's not smooth talking anyone. I just miss that man. I miss any man.
Very, very powerful poem. You're a great writer. You have amazing awareness, and you're very articulate and a good writer. And I think that's publishable. I think people will find that very interesting. Very interesting. And as you know, as a therapist, I know you know I don't judge you. I've always looked for ways that we could bring honor into what could be seen as promiscuity. I don't look at it as promiscuity. I look at it as a high libido, and you don't have just one man in your life right now, but that will change soon, I think. So let's elaborate on those different lines. That man being, not any man, but the wide variety of people that could fill being that man. And so let's talk about what would be a typical scenario. You meet at the bar, you come to that, I'm sure you don't go to your house, but where you go, the undressing, the caressing, how it proceeds to, and the sexual encounter, the sexual intimacy.
Well, I think that process itself, we'll say, has changed a little bit. When I was, a little younger and I didn't have my son, I was a little bit less choosy and more about just physical attraction with someone. So if I was alone or if I knew that I wanted to, see somebody or meet someone, I'd go out, I'd, sit at a bar or go somewhere where there's, a lot of men drinking and stuff. And, sometimes people would think that guys tend to go to bars as well to look for drunk girls. But I guess for me, it was kind of the opposite in the sense that I knew where the men were at that were looking for something. And even though I might have played coy or shy, I was there, with a plan because I felt I needed somebody in that moment. I'd dress up, I'd dress flirty, go to the bar, and, they'd always ask you who you're waiting for because I was dressed up most of the time. It seemed like I was waiting for someone or for a friend or something. So most of the time I'd make up some sort of story or make up something on why I was alone, like, oh, my girlfriend, she was supposed to meet me, but she canceled on me, or I was going to have a date, but, they canceled. So then that would kind of trigger them being, oh no, I'm so sorry. And they'd want to quote unquote save my evening or still show me a good time. So, I mean, I knew that a person like that, of course, if I was sexually attracted to them or they were attractive, I would continue the conversation. And yeah, my thing was definitely acting kind of shy. I guess most guys are attracted to like women who are kind of to themselves or things like that. I didn't want to seem overconfident because that also turns off a lot of men. So I was pretty smart in how to behave. I've always been a social person. My career has been in sales over the years. So I do have a lot of knowledge and paying attention to people's cues and if they're being honest or not, right? If you ask someone like where they live or things or they're lying or they're trying to, hide from you, I would be able to see those cues as well. So that also helped me a lot in my endeavors meeting men. But yeah, once I would talk to a man, if I really liked him, then I was not shy and quote unquote, like in my mind, I was not shy to go with him that night. Although maybe in their minds, they thought it was once in a while that I don't do that or that I don't engage in that. But yeah, and I guess for me, it was more of sex for me has always been more of having control of whatever's going on in my life. It hasn't necessarily been for specifically, like you mentioned, pleasure and getting to that orgasm point, but meeting those guys or having sexual encounters like that just kind of made me feel like I controlled everything around me. And yeah, money was never something that I cared for because again, I felt like that gave a man control over me and I didn't appreciate that.
So I want to go into what the thought would be. I mean, was it talk about you're going to have oral sex, you're going to have intercourse, things that you would do, things that you like to do, things that you noticed about men, what they wanted. So you learned how to read a man, you knew how to pleasure a man. So what did you learn about giving men satisfaction and pleasure at a physical level and at a deep level? As you referred to men rolling their eyes back during coming, going, or looking at you with love. So I want to talk to you about what that process was like, that kind of intimacy. I realized it was physical, but there was also this emotional dimension, at least what happened for the man, and whether that happened for you, some kind of emotional response as well.
Well, because for me, pleasure was, or sex was more about control than pleasure. It was a little bit more performative for me. Just like in a conversation I would have with a man, at work where I'm reading his cues and I'm paying attention to how he's behaving or his responses. If there's a pause or hesitation or if they're eager, the same way I would pay attention when I was talking to that man in the beginning or starting to like kiss or touch, what kind of like excited them, what that one man liked. If he liked a certain part of my body, if he liked the way I laugh or whatever it was that he liked, I kind of leaned into that, and would try to like lure him in, I guess you would say that way. And, yeah, so when we were together, whenever I would be with someone and we were having sex, I mentioned it was performative to me because I would pay attention to those cues just like in a conversation. So I would be either kissing them or being on top of them. And I'd pay attention to if they moaned, if they liked, me putting my mouth on it, or if they liked me being on top, or if they liked to be on top of me. Even though they were on top of me, I was still in control of everything. And it made me feel that way because I was a little bit outside looking in the sense that I was paying attention to their behaviors. So for me, it was about pleasing that man, making sure that I got the pleasure of seeing them, feel out of this world, and toes curling, moaning. Like, if all of that was happening, then I felt kind of satisfied, even though I wasn't reaching that point of orgasm. I felt satisfied that I was controlling that man in that moment, and creating that pleasure for him.
So as you start reading the man, person you were picking up, so to speak, I guess we could use that term, seducing, I suppose, would be also another thing to refer to. You can say you would lean into and lure him in. I want to talk to you about what that is for you, that luring in, what you do to lure him in, and how you know he's coming in to you that way when you're doing that lure, that seduction. I imagine you had your way of seducing.
Well, yeah, there are different cues that I would pay attention to, because all people are different, so all men like different things. I kind of have like this, even my career, people have mentioned that I have this kind of like kind face, this like charismatic, nice, sweet, kind of innocent looking face. So a lot of, older men were attracted to me even when I was younger. Again, I've always had a good career and always was put together. So I was never outside looking or searching. It wasn't obvious that I was searching for a man or anything to pay for my drinks or stuff like that. So, there are different things, like I said, that men like. And one of those things a lot of guys, older men, were attracted to was like that innocent, that kind face that's kind of pulling you in, that, I don't have a lot of experience. I don't know what it's like to bring a man home. I've never done this, or, some men like that. Some men do like a woman who's aggressive, and they're like, that's touching them and that's kissing them and that wants them to go home tonight. So it's just, men do like different things. And so I do pay attention when I'm having a conversation like that. If he likes, for example, if I'm having a conversation, if he likes that I'm touching him first or that I lean into him, then he probably likes a woman that is going to take control. Sometimes when I've come across a man that doesn't like a woman who's too initiative or creates a lot of initiative in the relationship, then they like someone who's shy, so they're not very responsive to me touching them or laughing at them. They want me to be kind of shy and to the side. I move away from them. They're a little bit more responsive to that. So those are kind of cues that I pay attention to when I'm picking someone up, what kind of woman that they like, because for me, I'm going to become that woman and take control of everything. And they won't know, or they don't know what's going on, whether I'm being real or not, whether I'm just assimilating to what their desire is, or if I am that. So, that creates that sense of control for me, that, that I know what's real.
That is so fascinating. In India, they have this book called the Kama Sutra. And it talks about how to please a man. And this is almost like the art of seduction. I mean, that's really lessons in the art of seduction. But you have to be pretty intelligent. You have to have that emotional, perhaps even called the sexual intelligence. And maybe it goes beyond emotional intelligence, sexual intelligence. I just coined that term. So you have that sexual intelligence. So you kind of have a mastery of the art of seduction. Whether to lean in or lean back, to be coy, that sweet, demure girl, or start touching and being a little more aggressive sexually. The guy needs that. That is so fascinating. And I think a lot of women would like to learn about these things. But I don't know if they'll have your sexual intelligence. I mean, that is, and it's not like somebody trained you. Perhaps you're training as a salesperson. You're tuned in. But even then, so you learned how to use, as a salesperson, as a woman, you probably learned how to use all that as part of the sales. So you probably you use some of that feminine charm, your feminine wiles to kind of move the sale along. Talk to us a bit about that.
I did use those, skills kind of in sales. I guess it's more of part of my personality that I am. I do listen a lot. I'm charismatic with people. I am kind at heart. I am nice. I am like that. It's just I'm like that with a selective group of people in my personal life. That I give that undying loyalty and that undying love for. So being in sales, a lot of men like to joke that, it's just about looking the part and it's easy for women because they just got to smile. But it's more than that because, a lot of men buy their cars with their wives. So it's not just about, looking hot and, laughing at a joke. Yeah, I did use those certain skills to a certain degree. It's the same thing. I would just read, kind of the conversation. I would read both people, husband and wife, or whether the guy was alone or not, or he had a friend with him. I'd read the entire room and observe everyone's kind of body language and so yeah, technically, I would flirt a little bit, even if the husband was married, but in a respectful way, in a charming, not look at my body way, but more of a, I hear you. I know you're the man here. You're very important. You're making the decision, but we know that the wife is making 75% or 80% of that decision. But in a low key, yeah, that way I would kind of look at him like you're the man here and reinforce that so that he would feel that I'd be on his side, and not like, again, not just in a vulgar, like, look at my body way. You have to be very charismatic and careful because, again, the wife, the family, maybe the kids or even the cousin friend is there to help him make a sound financial decision when they're making a purchase like that with me. So never open, too much, but I read the room, and I look at those cues, whether, again, they lean in or they laugh or they get too quiet or serious. I know where the limits are and I know how to behave myself accordingly.
Wow. I'm amazed by you, your intelligence. So you have the social intelligence, the emotional intelligence, the sexual intelligence. I mean, you know, uh, I'm gonna say this lightheartedly, but you could probably run a great brothel in teaching the women how to be in there. And I'm not suggesting that as a profession, but I'm just saying you'd be a great madam, so to speak. I mean, in Vegas they have these things. You'll be able to instruct women how to do this. I think that's amazing. Uh, but you talked about loyalty to your family. I know you've talked to me about your love of your brother, your mother, your father, your grandma. You take care of your grandma, which I think is lovely, and how devoted you are to your son. Talk about that loyalty to your inner circle. I think that's very important to get a rounded picture of you. I mean, your sexuality is very important, but you're also a lot more than that. You're a three-dimensional, full human being. So I don't want that to get lost, even though we're focusing a lot on your sexuality.
Yeah, I've always been a caretaker for my family and for the close people, people close to my heart. Ever since I was young, I had my mother who got ill and my father worked all the time. So I had to, as young as I could, help take care of my family, learned how to cook, learned how to clean, took care of my younger brother. Well, as soon as I was, in like working physical condition, I was like 12, 13. I started to work with my father in his business, his side jobs, washing carpets, doing things like that. So I've always been dedicated to my family. And yeah, even though I am, I guess you can say, promiscuous, there is a loyalty in my heart to the people that I love, like the people that I care about, and a sense of being able to provide for them as well in their future. I've always had that feeling. And I guess when I had my kid, that developed even further because I don't just want to care for him or for the generation of my grandma and my mother, but also any future generations, So I've been, aside from all of those things that I've gone through and dealing with being able to control those emotions or those quests on the side, I've managed to also, be there for my family, be there for my loved ones, worked, provided for them, provided for my child. And I continue to do that. I am at heart, and I want to be, loyal, not just, eventually for some man that I care about. But, in the past, it's been, I guess that's kind of been my outlet, sex with men, while I deal with all of this pressure and all of this planning that I do for my family and caring for them.
It's amazing, just amazing human being. Just amazing. I know you're taking care of your grandmother. Uh, uh, you're so kind to her, so good to her. So when you project out this sweet, kind person, it's because you are a sweet, kind person, but you learn how to use that to your advantage when you wanted to have the sexual encounter that you would like to have. Yeah. Now, you've told me that you've only had orgasm a couple of times. You've used the vibrator that's helped you with that. But interesting enough, for you to have orgasm those few times, you needed to, the fantasies about some porn you were watching was typically involved fantasies about women, even though you only been with one woman. And you enjoy men, or you enjoy the control and domination over men in this. And so you talked about how you like particular stimulation of your nipples to sexually excite you. But recently, in the last year, also your outer clitoris and your vagina was also intoxicating one time from the stimulation of your clitoris. So talk about this kind of details of your sexuality. Most women, that's the sexual organs, the nipples and the clitoris. But women typically don't come from what's happened with their nipples. Usually orgasms tied to the clitoris. So talk to us about some of those dimensions, because I know people are fascinated by that, and we'd love to get a female perspective.
Yeah, I think that's something I've been looking into this past couple, or kind of just reflecting as time goes by. Even though I was aroused and I got pleasure from controlling, the sex that I had with these men and dictating how it goes. I didn't really orgasm much from all the men that I think about I've been in the past. It's been only maybe 2 men that have been able to reach that. And one of them was the partner that I was with for so long. So he knew me. And that came from only, again, clitoral stimulation. And from, I was in my mind about the fantasy I was having with another woman, and that is what made me reach that. So it's something that I've been kind of reflecting on this year. If maybe, for what reasons? Well, when I was younger, I would think those reasons were young men are also not very experienced, or they're a little bit more selfish in sex, because they want to come and they think that all women like the same moves or things like that. Also, the fact that women do statistically have orgasms way at smaller amounts than men do. So that's a part of it as well. But, I would think that at least 20% would have made me orgasm. But no, it's been, again, only 2 instances where that's happened. So some thoughts did arise in my mind about, why it is that I only orgasmed with a woman, and her being on top of me. So it made me think about the fact that I was, a little bit more masculine at heart, I guess. When I'm with these men, it's more of like control and domination. And when I look at a woman, it's much more than that. I don't see a woman as just sex. I don't see them as just a body or just something for pleasure. It's more engaging. It's more intimate. So that's, have stirred up some thoughts for myself, some reflective points on what I do like. And, things for all human beings, things change, and being open to exploring things is a good thing, because you can also, maybe I've been doing this whole time because I've been attracted to women and I wouldn't know because I wasn't open to it. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be, But yeah, I think that's something that I'm looking at, and I do want to understand why that's happened. But again, for me, sex in the past with men has just been about that pleasure that comes from being able to control them and the pleasure that they're having.
So for a woman to come, she has to be able to submit, to let go, to not be in control. And so with men, you want to be in control. Uh, but I have a feeling that fantasy that you have, that in fact, when you have had orgasm and you fantasize about these pornographic movies you've been watching, that because you see them in a more three-dimensional way, that it's not all about control. So you could submit and relax and let the woman take control of you. So I think that if you were able to have that also towards men, where you gave up the control and allowed him to excite you to that point and to give you pleasure, not just you giving him pleasure, but allow him to, that would be generous on your part to allow the man to give you that pleasure. So that could be a very beautiful giving to him. I've been about allowing your feminine self to emerge more as opposed to being more masculine. I understand you became very independent. You were working since, your mother had that arthritis. She was bedridden. You were learning to do household things from, 5 years old, 6 years old. So you learn to be in control and taking care of everything and have to depend on somebody, be out there with your father working when you're 12, 13 years old, washing carpets and doing whatever. So you're a strong woman. You're a strong woman. So you learned that part of it. But I think allowing yourself to surrender, allowing a man to enjoy pleasuring you would be a great gift if you could. I know you like to please a man, so it would be pleasing to the man to do that for you. And I know you're dating a couple of men right now. So in addition to the more casual sex that you're having, you see these two men, and one of them has told you he loves you, and he has a few children. You could see something developing from that. Uh, and but we've talked about bringing honor into this. So we've talked about you bringing honor into this. So you've told me you aspire to not have sex with married men, and for the most part, you've kept it out. You won't have sex with a married man. You also honor demands that you be safe, so you're not spreading or contracting any kind of venereal disease. And you're pretty good at reading cues, so in terms of not being molested, raped, or in some way violated. You're pretty good at reading those cues, and up to this date, you've been okay. But we both know that phase of your life has to come to an end at some point. And of course, as your therapist, I've told you I respect you, I admire the person you are. My whole goal for you was to bring honor into your sex life, to bring honor into it. And these are some of the ways you've done that, which is admirable. At the same time, I know you're at a phase now of potentially becoming monogamous tomorrow, but there's one man in particular who's told you haven't said to him you love him, but he's told you he loves you, and you can see a future, and you enjoy him sexually. There's another guy you're seeing that you enjoy maybe more sexually, but the depth isn't there, and he's not as intelligent as you. You're a very bright young lady. So this guy Sergio that you're with, he's an intelligent guy, professional man. So you have that respect. So he's a good money maker, as you are a good money maker. So that could be something of a future. Of course, he would need to know that you have a high libido, which is healthy, and that he would need to take care of you every day, make sure we need to know that it's going to move forward. Just as your ex, that's one of the things that kept you in that relationship. Even though it was abusive in some ways, but he was satisfying you sexually every day. And so that's important for you. And many men would be thrilled, but some men would be much further. But so this guy, Sergio, from when you're telling me about me, he might like that. Or he could arise to do it just to take care of you. And that way, you could be monogamous. I know you're not somebody that has to go out finding men. If you're getting your sexual needs met every day, you're good. So that's healthy. So I very much respect that you're going to the way of honor. We've talked about the honor teachings. I want you to talk about, I know you recite the commands of honor 3 times a day. And also I've gave you the thought, my self-respect and self-esteem depend only on my honor. I don't want it to depend just on your sexuality, your good looks, your attractiveness, your income, but you can't help being attached to that to some extent, not for sure as a woman, but also to have it attached to your honor, because the other things come and go. I mean, you're an attractive woman now, but you can get older, sicker, be in an accident, looks can go, but nobody could take your honor away. So I see you moving in the direction of an honorable life, and I very much admire your loyalty and devotion to family. So once that man's part of that nucleus for you, I think you'll be very devoted, because he then becomes part of your nuclear family as your mom, your dad, your brother, your son, your grandma, and then your man, presumably becoming your husband. Tim, talk to me about honor in your life. You sign the commands of honor. You watch my videos, and I want to talk to you about what effect that's really having on your life.
Yeah, I think I have, as I mentioned, since I've had my son, I've found honor kind of in my own way, exploring or caring more about my community, about my loved ones, about what I'm doing in this world, or I guess my purpose with my kid. I did that kind of as soon as he was born. Things changed for me, and so that gave me a different perspective. And now working with you, I'm also trying to even further control my life a little bit more, because that does get distracting to me, having that, that libido. And because I was working, because I was trying to focus on my family when he was smaller, I was just working, like long hours, 55 hours a week. The drive was long. I was making the money, but I was also kind of just submerging myself as much as I could in work to keep my head out of doing things like that, and keep myself a little tired so I wouldn't have the energy to do anything. And I was with that man for about 8-9 years almost. So, he did, it was very toxic, sometimes, physical, but because he was there all the time in that one area of my life that I needed so much control over, I stayed with him. I did care about him, of course. I had emotions for him. I've known him for so long, but that one part can become distracting in my life if I'm not handling it one way or another, whether I'm coping and working so much, or I'm with somebody and, coping with dealing with that desire. Now, this past, time that I've been working with you, it definitely has helped in my new relationship. One of the things that I've been doing in the past 2 to 3 years, or actually the past year, I've only recently started to date with the intention of getting to know someone. And being able to talk to you has helped me be able to see these other partners with potential and use those skills to find a good man instead of just a sexual encounter to cover that one moment where I need it. I have them like, okay, if I'm with one man and he, as in my prior relationship, if he is with me and he can take care of me sexually, then, I can be monogamous and I can not focus on that part or get distracted by that part of my life, better said. And, be happy, be whole with my child, with my family. That is kind of like one of my goals. And I've been able to see this new relationship with fresher eyes because of the conversations that we have. I don't get to see him that often because he's busy, but that's good, right? he's working, I'm working, I'm with my kid, or, I'm doing things. So, of course we're busy, but I'm really trying to go past just this sexual desires and needs and see a future, like you said, because I don't want to have one encounter and another one the next time I need, to have sex with someone else. I could, no one's saying anything's wrong with it, but at this point in time, I don't want to risk myself in different ways when I have a family to take care of. So for me, that's my new goal. And you kind of helped me find that goal in finding, someone that I could spend, my time with and not just care about and respect, but also have a sexual connection with.
Again, I think you're an amazing young lady, so sensible.
Mhm.
I mean, so aware, so articulate, so intelligent. I think in some way you could be an educator, or even this movie that we're doing right now. I think it's amazing. One, you have the awareness, you're open, and you're articulate. Most people couldn't express themselves, so you're very expressive. I would say even poetic. I mean, and the poem you wrote, I think you're a poetess. Well, I have to say, Erica, it's been such a great pleasure, a privilege for me to be able to have this time with you and talk to you about these very important issues. And I'm very happy that you're following a way of honor. You say the commands of honor 3 times a day, and my self-respect, self-esteem depend only on my honor. And you've told me you intend to do this all of your life. So I just see a beautiful future for you.